So okay, we will study about the dentigenesis, which is the most common type of developmental odontogenic cyst. So overall, the most common type of odontogenic cyst is radicular cyst, but the dentigerous cyst is the most common type of developmental odontogenic cyst. So most common type of odontogenic cyst is radicular cyst, and dentigerous cyst is also called as a follicular cyst. So how we can define as dentigerous cyst? It is a odontogenic cyst that surrounds the crown of an impacted tooth caused by fluid accumulation between reduced enamel epithelium and enamel surface, resulting in a cyst in which crown is located within the lumen of cyst. So etiopathogenesis of dentigerous cyst, as we all know that tissue of a region of dentigerous cyst is reduced enamel epithelium. So there's a theory which is given by the Main in the Marvin Shear book. So Main suggests that if there is any potentially unerupted or the impacted crown. So Main suggests that if there is a potentially unerupted or any impacted tooth, so we know that it will obstruct the venous outflow. It will obstruct the venous outflow. So this will lead to the rapid transudation of fluids across the capillary walls. So this will increase the internal hydrostatic pressure. So now we are understanding that how there is a fluid accumulation between the reduced enamel epithelium and the enamel surface. So it causes the separation of enamel surface from the tooth surface. Enamel organ separates from the tooth surface with or without the reduced enamel epithelium. This will determine that the dentigerous cyst is of intrafollicular or extrafollicular region. This is blue line is reduced enamel epithelium. This is outer enamel epithelium composed of the low cuboidal cells, and these are tall lamelloblast like cells which compose the inner enamel epithelium. So if the fluid accumulates between these two layers, so we called it as intrafollicular region of the dentigerous cyst. So now if the fluid accumulation between the reduced enamel epithelium and the dental follicle, we called it as this is a extrafollicular origin of dentigerous cyst. Now how the actually cyst expands? Now we know that the origin, whatever the origin of the dentigerous cyst, but it contains the wall of the dentigerous cyst will contains a few chemicals like components like GAG, glycosaminoglycans, hyaluronic acid, and chondroitin 4 sulfate. So these will come into the cystic cavity or the cystic lumen. So they will further increase the osmolarity. So this will cause the fluid accumulation into the cyst for maintaining the osmolality. So that's why there occurs the expansion of the cyst. So now the further expansion of cyst is brought up by like desquamated cells when shed into the cystic lumen. So they further increase osmolality, and there occurs a further expansion of the dentigerous cyst. So clinical feature, they are mostly seen in second to third decade. So male are more commonly affected than females. Ratio is 3:2. Whites have more prevalence for dentigerous cyst. Site is, it is more commonly seen in the mandibular third molar, because we know that it is a potentially unerupted tooth, highest potentially unerupted tooth. So maxillary third molar, then maxillary canines, then mandibular premolars. Now the chief complaint will be the painless swelling. It is always associated with the impacted teeth. There will be the pain if there is a presence of infection in dentigerous cyst, and it may be associated with odontomes or the supernumerary tooth. But it is always associated with the impacted teeth. Now the syndromes associated with dentigenesis, these are two syndromes. The first is Marotic-Slemmy syndrome. So it is a typhomucopolysaccharidosis, and the second syndrome is cleidocranial dysplasia. It is basically a pathology of clavicle. So now we have the radiographic feature. In the X-ray, we can see the three types of the dentigenesis. That is the three variants of the dentigenesis. First is central, in which the cystic lumen is located within the crown is located within the dentigenesis. Lateral, in which the cyst is located laterally to the crown of the impacted tooth, and circumferential, so in which the whole cyst covers the crown of the teeth. So in these three types, these three types, the cystic lining will be attached at cemento-enamel junction. This is a similarity between these three types. So because as we know that the origin is of dentigenesis is from reduced enamel epithelium, and it is attached at the CEJ, that is cemento-enamel junction. So this is a radiographic pictures. In the first, we see that unilocular radiolucency, which have the well-defined border, and it is surrounded the impacted third mandibular molar. So in the second, we are seeing that there is a third molar mandibular, and there is a cyst lining the surrounding the. And in the histopathology, we see that this is a cystic lining and epithelium, and this is cystic lumen. So we know that this lining epithelium is 1 to 3 layer thick in dentigerous cyst. The lining epithelium resembles reduced enamel epithelium, and these, like you can see in the histopath diagram, and this is connective tissue. Now there is a rete pegs are absent, we can't see in the conventional type, and there is an absence of keratinization in the conventional dentigenesis. This is a conventional type of the dentigenesis. Now if there is an inflammation of the dentigenesis, and if there is a inflamed dentigenesis, now what happens? Lining epithelium thickness, which was 1 to 3 layers thick, it increases, retipex elongated, and there is a presence of hyperkeratinization, which was normally absent, and there is a mucous cell propyplasia, and which were also seen in the conventional type and also in the inflamed type. And there is a presence of the Rushton bodies. So Rushton bodies are nothing but the curvilinear arc shaped, but basically the walls of the RBC seen in the inflamed dentigenesis. And there may be the presence of the cholesterol crystals. It is basically seen in the radicular cyst. So FNAC, when we see the thin watery yellow colored fluid in the cystic lumen of the dentigerous cyst. It is a Now there is a Vickers and Gollin criteria, which says that the dentigerous cyst is converted to the unicystic ameloblastoma. So now we have the 5 criteria basically. When the basal layer of the dentigerous cyst have the palisaded basal cell layer, and there is a hyperchromatic nuclei, and the reversal of polarity of nuclei. Nuclei basically present along the basement membrane side, but when there is a opposite side, so we call it as a reversal of polarity of nuclei, and there is a formation of vacuole below the nucleus, and the juxta epithelial hyalinization, which is seen sometimes we don't include in this criteria. So treatment is basically depends upon the size and the age of the patient. So we have a small dentigerous cyst and the large. For the small one, we will go for the enucleation of the dentigerous cyst. For the large one, we have to go for the marsupialization followed by the enucleation. These are the separate topics. So in the children, we will treat the dentigerous cyst by marsupialization followed by enucleation. Now the dentigerous cyst can convert to the unicystic ameloblastoma. It is an odontogenic tumor Now we know that there is a Vickers and Golin criteria for the diagnosis of the unicystic ameloblastoma when the dentigenesis converts to unicystic. And the second is squamous cell or the epidermoid carcinoma. And the third one is a mucoepidermoid carcinoma. It is a salivary gland tumor. So, thank you and happy studying.